heat, hurricanes, and homeowners insurance. Those are just some of the reasons people are leaving Florida in droves. And today we're going to talk about why a lot of those people are choosing Michigan and specifically Northern Michigan as their new home. I'm Gino D'Angelo, a local Northern Michigan real estate agent specializing in helping you relocate to Northern Michigan. First, let's talk about the lifestyle. Florida and Michigan both have similar lifestyles in the sense that they are places that people love to vacation, and if you're lucky enough to be able to live full-time in one of those locations, then you are truly living a lifestyle that many people wish they could. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that in a lot of my videos, I talk about one of the biggest reasons people are moving to Northern Michigan is the ability to live the vacation lifestyle year-round, which is something I personally think makes Northern Michigan special. The same way people flocked to Northern Michigan during COVID, they also flocked to Florida. One of the biggest driving factors was the loose laws around masks and that sort of thing, and the ability to live the way you wanted to live when the rest of the country was on quarantine. Now, I don't want to get political and share my personal beliefs either for or against that, but that's just simply the way it was. Northern Michigan also saw an increase of population during COVID. While we still had mask mandates and those type of social distancing laws, Michigan, specifically Northern Michigan, is so spread out that people felt much more safe here. In fact, I had several clients who bought homes here and were able to bike or kayak, and as soon as they told their friends they were no longer locked inside, those people even came here to buy houses. So you would think, since people relocated to Florida during COVID, that everything would end happily. So what went wrong? While everyone was flocking to Florida during COVID and during the quarantine, developers saw that as an opportunity to build a lot of properties. Whether it was new subdivisions, condos, or anything you can imagine, the developers were quick to build the inventory to meet the demand. Great, right? Well, maybe not. The problem was they overestimated what would happen next and built far too many properties and overbuilt for the demand in a lot of areas. In fact, I have a lot of friends that are real estate agents in Florida, and they would agree that the developers built far too many properties for the amount of people that came to Florida and now are stuck with an excess inventory. In fact, I saw an article in Business Insider talking about the two states who have more homes than buyers for the homes. Those two states were Florida and Texas. Now, I made a post commenting about this because Florida and Texas are the two biggest feeder states for people selling and relocating to Northern Michigan. Now, once I posted that story, let's just say I got some interesting responses in the comment section. So I consider myself a student of real estate. I love to know why things are the way they are, why people make certain buying decisions, why they choose one area over another area. Specifically, when you start to hear things about an area that has been as popular as Florida, seeing people actually leave. The question I ask myself is, why is this? Let's face it, since the beginning of time, Michigan and Michiganders have had a relationship with Florida. In fact, there is a term called snowbirds for people that live in Michigan in the summertime and then leave and spend their summers in Florida. It's something that is super common here, and you see it all the time. So I've asked a few of the people who I've helped relocate here from Florida, why did you leave? And here were their responses. The one that I heard the most was they missed the four seasons. Florida has very hot weather, but that's all they have. It goes from hot to hotter. And I was just there in the end of June, and the temperature and humidity was almost unbearable. It made me really appreciate the four seasons we have in Michigan because it breaks the year up a little bit, and you get the opportunity to almost live in four different places in one single year, versus Florida, where it is just hot all the time. Another response I got was just how expensive Florida has gotten. If you do a quick Google search, you can see story after story about just how expensive home insurance has gotten in Florida. And it's actually a really big problem with many major insurance carriers not insuring houses in Florida because of the unpredictability and the risk of hurricanes. And that is just something that insurance companies whose sole purpose is to manage risk have decided to not be a part of. Also, Florida has no state income tax, but they make up the revenue lost from not having state income tax on property tax. Now, I know the trolls will fact check me, and I want to make sure to clarify. If you look at Michigan as a whole and Florida as a whole, Michigan does have higher property taxes, but let me explain. If you look specifically at Northern Michigan has lower property taxes, generally speaking, than Florida does. And the reason for that is we don't have a lot of big cities here. Now, Petoskey, Traverse City, some of the major cities, if you buy a house in town, you're going to have higher property taxes. That is just the cost of living in a city. and having city services. But one of the things I personally love about living in northern Michigan is once you get outside of those city municipalities, property taxes actually get really affordable. In fact, I have a little house over in a town called Afton, east of Petoskey, and the millage rate is about 30 mils cheaper there than it is in Petoskey, which adds up to a huge property tax savings, even though I pay non-homestead on that because it's not where I live. Another reason people are choosing northern Michigan over Florida is our fresh water. And again, I think this is one thing that sets our state apart. Nobody has as much fresh water as northern Michigan, or Michigan in general. I was recently in Florida with my son, and he was so excited to swim in the ocean again. This time, he actually told me he hated swimming in the ocean because it was too warm and the salt water tastes like. Also, one thing that I really love about freshwater compared to the ocean is I've never seen a shark in northern Michigan waters, making me feel a little safer going for a swim. Another thing to consider about living in northern Michigan versus living in Florida is the style of living. Here, we have a lot of places with big lots and subdivisions that are spread out and you're not on top of your neighbor. Almost everywhere in Florida is so built up that your neighbor is right next door to you. A lot of people that have relocated from Florida to northern Michigan say they love the additional elbow space. If after watching this video, you'd like to learn more about living in northern Michigan, feel free to call me directly at 231-487-6141. And if I missed anything about the differences of living between Florida and northern Michigan, please leave a comment below.